Have you ever caught yourself doing something really weird and thought, why on earth do I do that? Maybe you think it's just you, but guess what? It's not. Today, we're going to talk about some of the strangest human behaviors that we all experience. Behavior number one, laughing at a funeral. Yep, it happens. You're sitting there, feeling the weight of the moment, when suddenly you feel a giggle rising up inside you. You know it's not appropriate, but you just can't help it. So, why does this happen? When we're in situations that make us feel anxious or uncomfortable, our brain sometimes uses laughter as a way to cope. It's a bit like a pressure valve. The tension builds up, and your brain releases it through a burst of laughter. This is your brain's way of trying to make the situation feel less intense and more manageable. It's not that you find the situation funny, it's just your brain's weird way of trying to help you handle stress. Number two, you walk into a room with a clear purpose in mind. Maybe you're looking for your keys or you need to grab your phone. But as soon as you step through the doorway, your mind goes blank. You stand there puzzled, thinking, wait, what was I here for again? It's like the thought just vanished into thin air. You backtrack, hoping to jog your memory. But sometimes it feels like you're chasing a ghost. So what's going on here? It turns out that crossing a doorway can actually mess with your memory. When you move from one room to another, your brain creates what's called an event boundary. This is a kind of mental divider that helps you organize different events and places. But sometimes this boundary can disrupt your short-term memory, making you forget what you were doing when you entered the new room. It's like your brain hits the reset button as soon as you step through the door. Number three, have you ever felt your phone vibrate in your pocket only to pull it out and find no new messages or notifications? It's a weird feeling, right? You're convinced you felt that buzz, but there's nothing there. Welcome to phantom vibration syndrome. So why does this happen? Our brains have become so accustomed to the sensation of our phones vibrating that they sometimes anticipate it, even when there's no real trigger. It's like a habit your brain has picked up. Because we check our phones so often, our brains are on high alert for any sign of a new message or notification. This hyper-awareness can make you think you felt your phone buzz when it actually didn't. Basically, your brain is just a little too eager to stay connected. Number four, ever wonder why you can remember those embarrassing moments from middle school so vividly? Maybe it was tripping in front of your crush or saying something really awkward in class. These memories stick with you, popping up at the most random times, making you cringe all over again. It's like your brain has a special way of holding on to these moments, replaying them in high definition whenever it wants to embarrass you all over again. So, why do these memories stay with us so clearly? You can blame it on a part of your brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is like the emotional center of your brain. When something really emotional happens, whether it's scary, sad, or super embarrassing, the amygdala kicks into high gear. It tells your brain, hey, this is important. We need to remember this. This makes those emotional memories stick like glue. Your brain is trying to protect you by making sure you remember these intense experiences, even if they're not pleasant. Number five, have you ever been driven absolutely nuts by certain sounds, like someone chewing loudly or clicking their pen? It's like these noises go straight to your nerves and make you want to scream. Even if everyone else seems perfectly fine, you're sitting there, feeling like you might explode from the irritation. This condition is called misophonia, which means hatred of sound. It's not just about being picky or dramatic. When you hear certain trigger sounds, your brain reacts in a very strong way. It's like your brain creates an intense emotional reaction to these noises. Researchers think this might be because of the way your brain connects sound and emotion. Instead of processing the sound as just background noise, your brain links it with a strong emotional response, making it feel much more irritating than it actually is. Number six, ever felt irrationally angry when you're hungry? That's being hangry. You know the feeling. Your stomach is growling. You haven't eaten in hours. And suddenly, everything and everyone around you is incredibly irritating. It all comes down to low blood sugar. When you haven't eaten for a while, the level of glucose in your blood drops. Glucose is the main fuel for your brain, and without enough of it, your brain starts to struggle with emotional regulation. This means that small annoyances that you'd usually shrug off suddenly feel much bigger and more frustrating. Your brain's ability to manage stress and control impulses weakens, leading to those angry outbursts we call hanger. Number seven, someone yawns and suddenly you're yawning too. It's like a chain reaction you can't control. You might not even be tired, but as soon as you see or hear someone else yawn, you feel that irresistible urge to yawn yourself. So why does this happen? It turns out yawning when others do is connected to something called mirror neurons in our brains. These special neurons help us mimic the actions of others, making us more empathetic and social. When we see someone yawn, our mirror neurons activate, and we feel compelled to yawn too. This is thought to be a way of building social bonds and showing empathy. Essentially, your brain is wired to connect with others, and yawning is just one quirky way it shows that connection. Number 8. Ever caught yourself having a full-blown conversation with yourself? Maybe you're walking down the street or working on a project, and you suddenly realize you're speaking out loud. You're asking questions, giving answers, and maybe even cracking a joke or two. It might make you feel a bit odd, especially if someone catches you mid-conversation, but it's actually a lot more common than you think. Talking to yourself or self-talk is a way for your brain to organize thoughts and solve problems. When you speak out loud, it helps you clarify your ideas and focus on the task at hand. It's like having an internal dialogue, but externalized. This can be especially helpful when you're trying to make a decision, remember something important, or work through a challenging problem. You're not crazy. You're just really good at giving yourself pep talks. Number 9. Ever jolted awake from a dream where you're falling? It's a startling experience. You're peacefully asleep, then suddenly you're plummeting through the air. And just before you hit the ground, you wake up with a jerk. Your heart is racing, and you might even be gripping the bed. It feels so real that it can take a moment to realize it was just a dream. This phenomenon is known as a hypnic jerk. One theory is that it's an evolutionary throwback to when our ancestors lived in trees. As they fell asleep, their muscles would relax, and if they started to fall, a sudden muscle twitch would wake them up and prevent them from tumbling out of the tree. Even though we no longer sleep in trees, this reflex has stuck around. It's your body's way of making sure you're safe as you transition from wakefulness to sleep. When your brain detects that your muscles are relaxing too quickly, it sends out a signal to jolt you awake, just in case you're in danger of falling. So, there you have it. 10 weird behaviors explained by science. Give us a thumbs up if you liked the video. Next time you catch yourself doing something strange, remember it's all perfectly normal. And if anyone asks why you're laughing at a funeral or talking to yourself, just tell them it's science and carry on with your wonderfully weird self.